This edited video was recorded on February 24th, 2022.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Oregon Department of Education Child Nutrition Programs webinar on claims procedures. This webinar is a part of the series of technical assistance trainings that we are providing to child and adult care food program sponsors. My name is Shirley Wu, and I will be your MC for today. Shannon Smith will be your chat and Q&A host today, and she will be tracking any questions you ask for our Q&A session at the end. Joining us are our amazing presenters. I will let them each introduce themselves.
My name is Caitlin Screen, and I'm a child nutrition specialist with ODE Child Nutrition Programs.
Hi there, everyone. I am Eliza Kondo, and I am also a child nutrition specialist with ODE CMP.
Hi, everybody. I am Kathy Brock, and I am also a community team child nutrition specialist, and I lead the applications and renewals for both CACFP and SFSP.
Thank you, everyone. Let's take a look at what they will be presenting today. First, I will go over our learning objectives for this training. Then Caitlin will take you through our claims documents checklist and go through the basic requirements of a claims review. Then Eliza will go over the claims procedure template. After that, Kathy will walk you through submitting a claim. And finally, we will have some time for some Q&As with Shannon. As you think of questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box. Shannon will be tracking the questions, and we will have time to go over the questions at the end of the session. If we do not get to your particular question, your assigned specialist will contact you after the webinar. Here are the 3 learning objectives we hope you will leave with today. 1, that you will know what documentation must be reviewed as part of the claims process. 2, that you will have a completed claims procedure or be on a path towards completing a personal claims procedure. And 3, finally, you will understand how to submit a claim. Caitlin will now walk you through the claims document checklist.
So when you're getting ready to submit a claim for your organization, there are some important documents you will need to gather and review to ensure the claim is accurate and supported prior to being submitted. All CACFP programs will need daily meal count sheets, attendance records, working menu and production records, medical statements, food item documentation, and a list of approved sites and approved meal types by site, both of which can be found in CMP Web. Child care centers, Head Starts, and adult daycare centers will also need child enrollment forms for all participants served meals during the month. And the OMER numbers for each site should also be reviewed for all sites that require an OMER. If the center is a for-profit eligibility calculation is also required for the month. Let's review each of these documents in a little more detail. First up is meal count sheets. Meal count sheets are the foundation of every claim. Every day during each meal service, program staff record the number of meals served as participants receive them on meal count sheets. By the end of the month, these daily meal count records must be collected, reviewed, and consolidated to determine the total number of meals served by meal type for the month, which is then submitted via the claim for reimbursement. When compiling the claim, it's required that these daily meal count records be reviewed to ensure that there is a meal count record for every meal service for each day for all approved sites, that the daily meal count record includes a location, date, the type of meals served, and the total number of meals served, and if a consolidation system is used, that the totals for each meal type by site for the month have been verified to ensure that the meals were totaled correctly. Let's run through a common scenario. What if, when reviewing meal count sheets for the month, you discover that a sheet is missing? Should you A, check your site calendar to confirm that your site was open that day, B, check the menu for the month to confirm that the missing meal had been planned on being served that day, C, check with site staff to confirm if a meal was in fact served or if circumstances arose that caused the meal to be canceled, D, check with site staff to confirm that all daily meal count sheets were submitted to you for review, or E, all of the above. I'll go ahead and give everybody a moment to answer. All right. If you said E, all of the above, you are correct. There can be many potential reasons for why a meal count sheet that you are expecting would be missing. Exhaust all potential reasons that a meal count may not have been taken that day before moving forward. And it looks like all of you got it. Now, say that after completing the steps from the previous slide, you find that the site was open and meals were served to participants, but a daily meal count record either was not taken or cannot be located. Should you, A, look at the production records from that day and use that number for the missing meal count sheet? B, look at the meal count sheet for the other meals served that day and use the same number for that missing meal count sheet? C, look at the attendance record for the date and time of the missing meal service and use that number for the missing meal count sheet? Or D, provide technical assistance and additional training to your site staff and claim 0 meals for the missing meal count sheet and document why no meals are being claimed that day. I'll give you just a few more moments to answer. All right. The correct answer is D. None of the other records listed reflect a point of service meal count, and therefore they cannot be used as a meal count record when a meal count sheet is missing. Once an accurate number of daily meals served for the month has been established, those meal counts must then be compared to attendance records for the month to confirm that the number of meals served does not exceed the number of students recorded in attendance. Attendance documentation should be completed according to the requirements of your organization and include a full date, day, month, year, and location. There must be corresponding attendance records for each day of meal service being claimed. If attendance is taken by classroom, classroom attendance should be compared to classroom meal count sheets. If attendance is taken by site, site attendance should be compared to site meal count sheets. If the meal count record reflects a larger number of meals served than participants recorded as in attendance that day, all meals above the recorded attendance amount must be disallowed. Once you have verified the number of meals served and that the number of participants in your program each day supports that number, the next step is confirming that the meals served met all requirements. Which brings us to menus and menu documentation. Sponsors are required to document all food items that were served to participants each day, including substitutions. This documentation is sometimes referred to as a working menu, actual menu, dirty menu, or a production record. Kitchens are a busy place, and sometimes due to supply or delivery issues, what is served can vary from the menu that was planned. In these cases, a substitution is made to the entire menu. These changes to the planned menu should be documented, noting what item was served instead of the planned item. Menu documentation requirements like brand and type of cereal, flavor and brand of yogurt, brand of tofu, and whole grain rich status should be noted if these food items are added to the menu. Sometimes these substitutions can result in a meal that does not meet meal pattern requirements. For example, say peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with whole wheat bread are planned for lunch, but plain enriched white bread is delivered. So the sandwiches are served with that instead. In this case, if no other whole grain rich item is served that day, then the meal service requirement of 1 whole grain rich item being served per day has not been met, and the lowest reimbursement meal or snack served that day must then be disallowed. Another example would be a lunch where no fruit, but both carrots and peas were planned on being served. But the carrots were back ordered, so a double serving of peas were served instead. While serving 2 servings of vegetables instead of a serving of a fruit and a serving of a vegetable is allowable, 2 different kinds of vegetables are required to be served, and this meal would have to be disallowed. Substitutions are also often made to accommodate specific participant needs or preferences. These substitutions must be tracked by meal, by day, and also by participant. If an individual substitution results in a meal being served that does not meet meal pattern requirements, The sponsor must confirm that the participant who received that meal has a valid medical statement on file or a note of one in process. Each month, when compiling the claim, sponsors must review all production records and substitution documentation to confirm that all menu substitutions and meals served included all required components in the required amounts by participant age group and met all meal pattern requirements unless a valid medical statement is on file. Next, you will need to verify that all food items served meet all CACFP meal pattern requirements and that the required documentation is on file for those items. Please review the menu monitoring checklist for a complete list of food item requirements. You can find this checklist on ODE's CACFP Meal Pattern and Menu Planning webpage under Menu Planning Resources. Shannon will also add the link to this handout in the chat as well. If your program provides infant meals, a separate review will need to be conducted specifically focusing on infant meal pattern and menu documentation requirements. Once your meal counts, attendance, and menus have all been reviewed, you will then need to confirm that all the meal types that were served and are going to be claimed have been approved in CMP Web. If a meal type has been added to your program, confirm that only meals served after submitting a revision in CMP Web are being claimed. You will also need to confirm that all meals being claimed were served at facilities or sites that have been approved in CMP Web. For example, if a central kitchen is approved in CMP Web, but a staff member from location A picks up meals from the central kitchen and then passes out those meals to participants at location A, then location A must be approved in CMP Web in order for those meals to be reimbursable. If your program serves more than the maximum number of meals and snacks allowable per participant, or if your program operates multiple CACFP programs at one site, you must also confirm that no participants received more than the maximum number of meals allowable for the CACFP program that they are enrolled in. For example, if your organization runs a child care center program serving breakfast, lunch, and PM snack, and an after-school at-risk meals and snack program that serves PM snack and supper, you must ensure that no child care center participants receive a breakfast, lunch, PM snack, and supper. Or if after-school at-risk participants are in care all day during a no-school day, that only supper and PM snack are claimed for those participants that day. Finally, if your program is a child care center, a Head Start serving sibling or community slot meals, or an adult daycare program, you will also need to review the enrollment documents and OMR for each site claiming meals. Enrollment forms or CEFs must be on file for all participants in attendance and receiving meals during the claim month. Any meals served to participants without this form cannot be claimed for reimbursement. 1 month enrollment roster numbers must also be reviewed to confirm that what has been entered into CNP Web matches the eligibility document or determinations on the OMR Excel sheet and accurately reflects the eligibility documentation on file. If your organization is also categorized as a for-profit organization, then a for-profit eligibility calculation must also be completed and reflect that 25% or more of participant enrollment or capacity has been determined as at the free or reduced price eligibility rates. Depending on your program and number of sites, this can be a lot of documentation to review prior to submitting a claim each month. ODE has created a handout to help sponsors check that all necessary documentation has been reviewed and all requirements have been met prior to submitting their monthly claim. This claim documentation checklist summarizes the claim review requirements per documentation type in an easy-to-read format. This handout will be uploaded to the ODE CNP CACFP webpage within the next month. You received this preview in your inbox prior to the start of the webinar. This will also be included in the follow-up email you will receive after the webinar. Next, Eliza will describe how to develop a claim submission procedure for your organization.
Thank you, Caitlin. Now that we have walked through the gathering and double check of documents, let's take a look at the policy and procedure template you were provided prior to the webinar. If you're able to have the document open on your desktop along with the webinar, you can follow along and take notes while we go through the template. If you're unable to have it open, I'll have sections of the template pulled up for us to review here in the presentation. This template is meant to assist in creating your organization's written procedure for submitting claims. It is important that all staff involved in this procedure are trained on the details of and how to implement the procedure. Keep in mind when completing this template for your organization that when following this procedure, it is expected to produce accurate outcomes when replicated. You'll notice on the template there are a few gray fields. These gray areas indicate a place that needs to be completed by you as a sponsor and will be specific to your organization's operations. If you see a checkbox on the procedure template, be sure to mark the checkbox to indicate if that step is being used by your organization. If there is a field that is not applicable to your organization, you may delete it from the template. The beginning of this procedure asks you to detail the process and timeline of the claim submission. Step A1 of the procedure, shown here on the screen, is detailing the compiling and collection of the required documentation needed to support the claim. This is all the documentation Caitlin just detailed out for us earlier in the webinar. When completing this section, you'll be entering who is responsible for each step and the when, which is the timing of the task or the time frame for completion. If we move on to step 2 of the procedure template, it continues on to detail the steps taken to complete the actual review of all documentation gathered prior to submitting the claim. Although the current screenshot of the procedure template on this slide is only showing the steps for reviewing point of service meal counts and meal pattern and documentation compliance, there are also sections in step 2 that cover reviewing enrollment documentation, 1-month enrollment roster or OMER, and the for-profit eligibility documentation, if those are applicable to your organization. Similar to step 1 of the procedure, in step 2, you must indicate who is responsible for each step and when the step is occurring. In step 2, there are also areas where you complete how these processes are occurring. The how part of your procedure is the step-by-step guidelines that will help your organization's staff follow the procedure. You'll also notice that in step 2, each section of documentation review has a procedure step for what to do if errors are found while reviewing the documentation. While we all do our best to ensure documents are completed correctly and accurately, we're all human and understand there may be an error every so often. One of the reasons to have a claim submission procedure is to ensure that those errors are not only found, but are not repeated. So what happens if you do find errors while reviewing the documents prior to submitting the claim? When reviewing documentation, an error you find may result in disallowing a meal. What is disallowing a meal? Disallowing a meal means that a meal is removed from the total meal count and is not claimed for reimbursement. So why would you, as a sponsor, disallow a meal? A meal must be disallowed when it does not meet the requirements in order to claim for reimbursement. When you, as a sponsor, disallow a meal prior to claiming it, you are ensuring that only completely reimbursable meals are claimed. And there are many reasons why a meal may be disallowed. A few examples include meals that are not supported by required documentation, such as meals that do not have documentation of point of service meal count, or meals that are not supported by required attendance records or enrollment documentation. Meals that do not meet meal pattern, such as required components are missing from the meals served, or meals do not meet meal pattern for the age group being served, or required additional documentation is not on file, such as child nutrition labels, product formulation statements, and standards of identity forms for combination foods. All specific CACFP documentation requirements can be found in the CACFP Policy and Procedure Manual located on the ODE CMP CACFP public website. Now that we've covered the fact that you may find errors while reviewing documents, let's do an activity. In this activity, we will be following Jane, who is a food program coordinator for childcare centers on CACFP, as she is reviewing documentation prior to submitting the claim. When reviewing these scenarios, you will need to decide whether the meals are allowed to be claimed or will meals need to be disallowed based on the documentation being reviewed. Let's jump into our first scenario. Jane has gathered all documentation needed to review prior to submitting the claim. Jane is starting with the step of double checking the point of service meal counts to ensure the meal count consolidations were totaled correctly. While going through her paperwork, Jane notices that one site does not have any point of service meal count documentation. Jane follows up with the site, and the staff of the site stated that the meal count came from a pre-count of participants who wanted a meal, and no point of service meal count was taken. In this scenario, can Jane allow these meals to be claimed, or will the meals served at the site need to be disallowed? Give you a few moments to get your answers into the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so the answer is the meals will need to be disallowed. Meals must be supported by point of service meal count documentation in order to be claimed. Great job, everyone, getting that answer correct. All right, in scenario 2, let's take a look at a sample of meal count and attendance records Jane is comparing to ensure meals are totaled correctly for the claim. We have the daily point of service meal count for December 1st through 3rd. And Jane is comparing the attendance records to the meal count records to ensure participants are in attendance for the meals counted. We'll be looking at participant A. Remember, when comparing attendance records and daily point of service meal count records, you're ensuring that all meals being claimed are supported by the attendance records. Based on these records, go ahead and answer the poll of whether all meals for participant A are allowed to be claimed, or will meals need to be disallowed. I'll give you a few moments to compare these records on your own. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so for those of you who answered that some meals will need to be disallowed, you are correct. The daily meal count record indicates participant A received meals on December 1st. However, the attendance records indicate that participant A was not in attendance on December 1st. Therefore, meals served to participant A on December 1st will need to be disallowed. All right, scenario 3. Jane is now double checking the consolidation of the daily point of service meal counts. We're going to take a closer look at Thursday's count. Are the consolidation totals correct? Based on this point of service meal count, can all meals this day be claimed, or will any meals need to be disallowed? I'll give you some time to double check this point of service meal count. And once you've double checked it, go ahead and submit your answer to the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So yes, the meal counts have been totaled correctly for this day. Based on the point of service meal count record, all meals are allowed to be claimed. Great job on these questions, everyone. In this next scenario, while reviewing menu documentation, Jane notices that a substitution was made for participant A. Jane goes to check medical statements to request special meals and/or accommodation and meal preference request forms currently on file. And upon reviewing all documentation, Jane finds that participant A does have a current and valid medical statement to request special meals form on file that supports the substitutions made. Should the meals with the substitution served to participant A be allowed to be claimed, or will they need to be disallowed? We have that poll open for you. Go ahead and take a few seconds to submit your answers. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, based on this scenario, all meals with the substitution served to the participant A are allowed to be claimed because there is a completed medical statement on file. Great job, everyone who got that one correct. All right, this is our last scenario here. And Jane is reviewing the working menu documentation for the claim month. Let's look specifically at December 10th. Now, while some of you may have the required components memorized, For anyone who needs to be reminded, the required components for each meal is listed next to the day we're reviewing. Please take a few moments to review the menu. Are all meals on this day allowed to be claimed, or do any meals from this day need to be disallowed? As a reminder, while you're reviewing menus prior to claiming meals, you are reviewing to ensure the planned and working menu meet meal pattern. The menu meets documentation requirements such as whole grain rich documentation, actual items served, type of milk served, and any substitutions that are made are documented. I'll give you a little more time to review the documentation on your own. Five, four, three, two, and one. All right, so for those of you who said that meals from this day will need to be disallowed, you are correct. First, the breakfast meals are unable to be claimed as the working menu has no documentation of milk or a fruit or vegetable being served. And second, no lunch meals are able to be claimed as there is no grain item documented as served with the meal. It's also important to note that based on this menu, the center is serving 2 meals and 2 snacks. If your organization is approved to serve more than the maximum number of meals able to be claimed, it is best practice to include in your procedure steps to ensure a review of meal counts is conducted to verify that no participant received more than the maximum number of meals allowable for the CACFP program that they are enrolled in. Thank you everyone for participating in that activity. You all did a great job. And now it's great that we found those errors. And as I mentioned earlier, mistakes do happen. And that's why it's important you have a procedure that ensures a double check is in place to find those errors. It's also important to have your procedure include details on how to correct those errors found and how to avoid those mistakes in the future. Going back to the procedure template, you'll not only be detailing how the review of documents will occur, but also what steps will be taken if you find errors. In step 2 of the procedure template, there are areas for you to describe and detail the how steps your organization will take if those errors are found. When creating the how steps for this part of the procedure, ask yourself, how are those errors being tracked and documented? Have errors been made in this area before? What steps are being taken to correct those errors? Is the documentation being updated? Are staff being retrained in the area in which errors were found? These are all items that should be addressed in the procedure based on how your organization will handle the situations. Now that we've covered getting your claim submission procedure started and how to handle errors when reviewing documentation, I'm going to hand it off to Kathy, who will discuss submitting the claim.
Thank you, Eliza. As Eliza said, I will be walking you through how to submit a monthly claim into CMP Web for reimbursement, which is step 4 of the claim submission procedure template for those of you who are following along. We'll be providing a link to CMP Web in the chat box, and it will be available on this slide as well. CMP Web is a web-based system that is used to gather, record, and approve information, as well as submit monthly reimbursement claims. Before we jump to submitting a claim in CMP Web, let's walk through a few CMP Web housekeeping items. Prior to us logging in, I would like to point out the Forgot Password button, which is available on the login page. If you do forget your password, keep in mind that once you complete the Forgot Password prompts, it will take a day or 2 to receive your new password information. This is because our system is not automated. That's why there's a little bit of a delay on there. Once you log into CMP Web, you will notice 4 different colored puzzle pieces. Some of our sponsors on the call today may have access to some or all of these depending on the child nutrition programs your organization operates. Today, we'll be going to the CACFP, which is the orange puzzle piece on the upper right-hand side. As you enter CACFP CMP Web, this is what we call the splash page, and it will appear first. We'd like to know how many of you review the information on this page. So we're going to open up a quick poll for you all. Now remember, this is not a quiz, so please be honest with us on how often do you read the splash page when you log into CMP Web. Give you a few seconds here, and 3, 2, and 1. All right, it looks like we have a pretty even, well, every time and sometimes is an even distribution, and someone never, which maybe myself, but in any case, thank you all for sharing. We'd like to take this opportunity to remind you all that the ODE CMP uses this page to share important information. This page is great to review when logging in. It will hold important dates for claim reminders, links to resources, and even current announcements. To move forward, we will click on the Continue button. Next, you will see the Program Year selection. This page is where you'll be able to access all previous years and the current year's CACFP applications in CMP Web. Note that these years are not calendar years, but fiscal years, which begin on October 1st and end September 30th. You'll notice that those dates are actually located in the center and in the right-hand column as well. So for today's training, we'll be going into fiscal year 2022. Once you are in CACFP CMP Web, you will see a variety of tabs available for you to view. The first tab you will see here is the Packet tab. This is where you can locate the contact information for your assigned specialist. So here today, our specialist is Eliza. This tab also has offline forms and resources available for you to access. To view the resources I will be pointing out today, we will need to scroll towards the bottom of the Packet tab. The first resource I would like to point out is the CMP Web Quick Reference Guide. This is a great tool that has step-by-step instructions on how to edit or revise forms and how to submit or revise claims. Another resource on the Packet tab is the Claim Due Dates document. This resource should be easily available to refer to for each month's claim deadline. Please note that on this form, there's also information regarding completing revisions to the claim, as well as information on the one-time exception process. We will discuss one-time exception requests a little later in this training, but if you find that you've missed a claim deadline, you will find the one-time exception request form here. The next forms I would like to point out are the Add and Inactivate Site forms. If at any point in time your organization needs to add, modify, or inactivate a site in CMP Web, the forms that are located on the Packet tab are here to do so. Each of the forms will have their own instructions located at the top of the page. Remember that CACFP meals are only reimbursable if they are served at an approved meal site. The last two forms I would like to touch on are the user authorization and termination forms. As we'll discuss later on, it is important that the appropriate staff have access to CMP Web and a backup has been identified to ensure claim deadlines are not missed. These forms allow organizations to add user access and to remove user access if roles change or that person is no longer with your organization. Since we are discussing user authorization and termination forms, I do want to take a moment to clarify who should have access to CMP Web. You can view who currently has access to CMP Web by clicking on the Users tab and viewing the list. It is important to remember that all information in CMP Web is official documentation. ODE CMP recommends using page 2 of the user authorization request form to see what the users will be able to access and edit if given access to CMP Web. Ensure that when requesting a staff member to have access to CMP Web, this staff member should have access to edit and view official documentation. Just as importantly, if there are staffing changes and someone no longer works with your organization, A user termination form must be submitted to ODE CNP in a timely manner to ensure they no longer have access to CNP Web. Keep in mind, user logins must never be shared, and login information may not be used by anyone except the designated user. Your specific CNP Web user ID is equivalent to an electronic signature. All right, now we'll switch over from our slideshow to a live view of CNP Web. While we are making this transition over to CNP Web, please keep in mind that what you see during our training today may differ from what you see in CNP Web. We are using our COVID school district as an example, and this example school district may operate differently from your organization. Okay, so let's make some magic happen. To submit a claim, we will go to the Claims tab. This tab is where you will enter your monthly reimbursement claim for CACFP. You will notice that the claim submission timeframes are listed on each month's line. Once the 60-day claim period is opened, you will have the ability to enter a claim. We will do a brief overview of how to enter a claim with a 1-month enrollment report, also known as an OMR, as well as a claim without one. Please note that the forms on the Applications tab must be in approved status in order to submit a reimbursement claim. Let's enter a claim. While the fiscal year started on October 1st, our example sponsor did not submit an October or November claim. Since the 60-day deadline has passed, these are no longer available to be added without an approved one-time exception request, which we will go over later. The first claim for the fiscal year that is available for our sponsor to claim is December. We will begin by clicking Add for the sponsor claim. All right. So right now, we're going to scroll to the bottom of the page without checking the certify box, and we're going to click Submit. And we'll scroll to the bottom of this page and click here to return to the sponsor summary page. Okay, next we'll click on the yellow folder to the left of the month in order to open all applicable sites. We'll click Add for the site that you are entering the claim for. For our example, we will begin with the Child Care Center claim. You will then see a blank claim sheet. For example purposes, we will be filling out this claim sheet as if we were entering a claim for December, which for our example sponsor is the first month they operated CACFP in fiscal year 2022. We'll be starting with lines 1 through 4. If you are completing a claim for a site that requires an OMR, these lines will need to be completed in your first claim of the new fiscal year. Remember, the CACFP fiscal year runs from October to September. So for most October will be the first claim of the month of the new fiscal year. Any claims completed after the first claim will have these numbers automatically populated in the following claims. So let's complete this claim. We'll be completing lines 1 through 4 based on our 1-month enrollment roster. For example, we will list 50 participants in line 1. So 50 will be with our free enrollment. We have 10 participants in line 2 that are reduced price, and 10 participants in line 3 who are above scale. That gives us a total of 70 total enrolled participants in line 4. Next, in line 5, we will complete the number of operating days. This is the total days the site was open and operating CACFP with participants present. In December of 2021, our center operated 21 days, so we'll enter 21 here. Line 6 is where the total monthly attendance is entered. Total attendance is the total monthly attendance for the site for this claim period. meaning you'll have to add the attendance numbers for each operating day together to get the total monthly attendance. The monthly attendance for this site was 1,400. Once all that information is entered, we will now move on to entering the meal count data. We'll move to line 9, column A, and we will enter the total number of breakfasts served at this site during the claim period, which is 1,200. Next, in column C, we will enter the total number of lunches served, which is 1,350. And column D, the total number of PM snacks served is 1,100. We will not enter any meals into columns B, E, or F, as we are not approved to serve those meals at this site. A quick tip that we would like to provide is to have all your numbers ready to go when you sit down to enter the claim. As you can see from walking through entering this claim with us, all numbers are based on the required documentation that Caitlin discussed earlier in this training. It is helpful to have all documentation gathered, double-checked, and readily available to use when you go to enter the claim. The next section of the claim you will notice is a for-profit sites only. If your organization has a for-profit site and needs more clarification on this section of the claim, please review Chapter 18 of the CACFP Policy and Procedure Manual. If you are not a for-profit site, you are able to move on past this section to the bottom of the page and click Submit. You will then be taken to this page showing the status of the site claim is complete. We will then click here to go back to the sponsor claim. Back on the Claims tab, you will see that the Child Care Center claim is now complete. Next, we will walk through completing a claim for a CACFP at-risk site. Again, we will click Add to add the claim for this month. You will notice that it looks very similar to the Child Care Center claim. The major difference you will notice is not all lines 1 through 4 are available. Since this is an at-risk site, all participants are eligible to be categorized under the free enrollment. Our at-risk site has a total of 65 participants enrolled, which will go under lines 1 and 4. Once we have entered our enrollment, we will go over to line 5 and enter our number of operating days, which is 21 days. Our monthly attendance for our at-risk program was 1,300, which will put that into line 6. We will move on to entering our meal count data. Due to this being an at-risk site, we will only be entering PM snack and supper data into line 9. Our PM snack total was 1,150 in column D, and our total suppers was 1,250 in column E. We will continue to scroll down to the bottom of the page and click Submit. We will be brought to this confirmation page again to show that the claim is in complete status. And we will click here to take us to the Sponsor Claim tab. Although both site claims are entered and showing complete status, you will notice that the sponsor claim is still in pending submission. Although we have entered each site claim, the entire sponsor claim has not been submitted. So from here, we will click Edit for the sponsor claim. This will take us to the sponsor claim form. This is where you will double check meal counts and ensure they are correct. For our example, everything looks good. So we'll scroll down to the bottom of the page and check the certify box. It is important to understand that the certified checkbox should not be marked until all data included in the monthly claim is true and complete. Once we check this box, we will click Submit, and our claim will be submitted. It is best practice to go back to the Sponsored Claim tab and double check the status of the claim. As I mentioned before we submitted the claim, it was in pending submission status. Now you will see it is in approved status. Claims must be in approved or pending approval status prior to the claim deadline in order to be processed by ODE CMP. If you enter a claim and are unable to submit the claim into pending approval or approved status, please reach out to your science specialist as soon as possible. When the status of the claim is approved, it will be paid with the next batch payment. You are able to view payment history of completed claims under the Payment tab, which we will go to next. You will now see our December claim is on the Payments tab under Open Balance Transactions, waiting for payment to be processed. We have another poll question for you. Here's the poll question. Do you share monthly claim and payment information with your financial office? Yes, no, or unsure? I'm going to give you a little bit of time to respond here. All right, and 3, 2, and 1. All right, and it looks like 92% of us do share this information with our financial office. It is important to remember that CACFP administrative duties do not end when the claim is submitted. In fact, the party's just getting started. It is vital that the financial office within your organization is aware of the claim and payment data for monthly reimbursement claims to ensure accurate financial management of the CACFP. We encourage you, as well as your financial office staff, to attend the financial management webinar on April 13th. Shannon will provide the information and registration in the chat. Please note that the financial management webinar does not apply to school districts. A separate webinar for school districts will be announced in the future. Before we move back to our slideshow, let's take a look at what other claiming resources are available to you. In addition to the forms and resources available in your CMP Web Packet tab, you can find helpful CMP Web resources on the CACFP public website. You can access this web page by clicking Resources in the upper left-hand corner of CMP Web. This will take you to our public ODE Child and Adult Care Food Program webpage. Here, you will select the CACFP CMP Web Training Materials link on the left side of the page. We'll provide the direct link to this page in the chat. And if I do say so myself, it would not hurt to bookmark this page in your preferred internet browser as well. As the steps we just covered are listed in the Submitting CACFP Reimbursement Claims CMP Web document, which is located on our CACFP CMP Web Training Materials webpage. This document also contains step-by-step instructions for submitting a revised claim if needed, as well as tips and tricks for when the claim system gives you an error status. Another resource on this webpage is the Submit a Claim by Upload for centers. This provides instructions on how to use the center-based program sponsor upload template, which is also available on this webpage. That will be helpful for those of you who may want to upload claim data into the system instead of entering it for each site manually. Now we'll move back to our slideshow at this time and briefly discuss the claim upload process. To prepare your claim for upload, you will open the CACFP Claim Upload Template for Centers in Excel, the link to which is available on the CACFP CMP Web Training webpage we were just on. You will start by entering your sponsor data in row 10. You'll want to refer to the header information in row 3 and sample header information in row 4. for guidance on what to enter for each field. If you have a question about the data to enter here, please refer to CACFP Web and contact your assigned child nutrition specialist. Next, you'll enter the claim data for each center. 1 row per center, beginning with row 11. You will need to refer to the site record information in row 7 and site record sample in row 8 for guidance on what to enter in each field. This information will include site number, enrollment, attendance, and meal count data. Once all of the sponsor data and center claim data is entered, you will delete rows 1 through 9. Once all of the data is entered for all CACFP sites, you will need to save the Excel document to your computer. We'll walk through some tips on how to do this, as the file does not need to be saved in a specific format, or it does need to be saved in a specific format that some of you may not be accustomed to. All right, so you'll click on File and then Save As. Excel will open as Save As dialog box. From there, you will select the location on your computer or network drive where you want to save the file. Make sure you remember where it is saved so you can find it later. Type a name for your file in the file name field. Our suggestion is to name your file something that tells you what it is and it is easy to remember. One idea would be to use the initials of your sponsor name, the month and year, and the word claim. For our example, COVID School District, we will save as CSD 12 2021 claim. Now, this is the important part. In the Save As type field, click the down arrow in the drop down to the right and select CSV, delimited, and then there's an asterisk .CSV. And then you're going to click Save. Next, you'll upload the prepared file to a monthly claim in CMP Web. Follow the same process for logging into CMP Web as we did for submitting a claim manually until you get to Sponsor Summary Claims tab. Locate the claim month. Under the Action column on the far right, directly to the left of the Add option, you'll see an icon of a stack of papers with an arrow by it, which you will click. CMP Web will then display the claim file upload page. On this page, click Browse, and CMP Web will open a file selection dialog box. From there, locate the claim upload file for this claim month and open it using the dialog box. The highlighted file name then appears on the claim file upload window. From there, you will click Upload File, and CMP Web uploads the file and evaluates the file format. If the file format does not match the file layout technical specifications, CMP Web reports a list of errors on the claim file upload page. You must fix the errors and try again or manually create the claim by site. For assistance in correcting errors, or if you are not sure why your file was not acceptable, please see the troubleshooting section of the Submit a Claim by Upload for Centers resource located on the CACFP CMP Web Training Materials webpage. If CMP Web successfully creates the claim from the file upload, it displays the claim file upload page with the message Claim Created. You'll then click here in the last line text to display the sponsor summary. CMP Web will display the sponsor claim entry claims page again. If the file was uploaded without errors, the status is pending submission. To check the site level claim, click the yellow folder to the left of the claim month to expand the list of sites. Sites with a status complete have been successfully uploaded and pass the business rules and need no further editing. At this point, it is a good idea to open or view each site claim to double check that the file was uploaded properly. Sites with the status error may have been successfully uploaded, but have failed some business rules that must be corrected before the sponsor claim can be submitted for payment. Click Edit for a site with errors. CMP Web displays the site claim page. Review the error messages on this page and make corrections as needed. You must correct all errors and resubmit your claim. If CMP Web finds no errors, it displays the appropriate post confirmation with the complete status. Once errors have been fixed, or if the sites were uploaded correctly with no errors, locate the sponsor claim for this month on the sponsor summary claims page and click Edit in the action column on the far right. CMP Web displays the filled in sponsor claim form. Check meal counts to ensure they are correct. If incorrect, go back to the site claims and make appropriate adjustments. If correct, you can move on to submit the claim. Please note, even if the file upload was error-free and the sponsor claim has no errors, it will only have a status of pending submission until the certified checkbox is checked on the sponsor claim. At this point, the claim is not submitted to ODE for approval. To see the reimbursement value of the claim prior to submitting, scroll to the bottom of the claim form and click Submit. Without checking the I certify box, CMP will display the sponsor claim summary page with the claim payment information. Click the Here link at the bottom of the page to go back to the Claim tab. Once you have confirmed that all site claims and the sponsor claim are accurate, you must submit the claim for reimbursement. You'll go back into the sponsor claim by clicking Edit in the action column on the far right. CMP Web displays the filled in sponsor claim form. You will scroll to the bottom of the claim form. Here, once you are certain that the claim is accurate, you'll check the I certify box and click Submit and head back to the Claim tab. CMP Web displays the sponsor claim summary page with the claim information and status. It should be in approved or pending approval status. If it is in pending submission or error status, it has not yet been submitted. That wraps up our tour of submitting claims into CMP Web, both manually and uploading it using the Excel form. While you may not include every detail of the claim submission process in your written procedure, it is important to identify responsible staff and provide links to the CMP Web resources for further reference. Now that we've talked through the claim submission process, let's talk about the claiming timeline. Claims may be submitted into CMP Web the first day of the following month. Federal regulations provide 60 days to submit a claim for reimbursement. We highly recommend including the claim due date document, which is available on the CMP Web Packet tab with your procedure, so the claim deadline is not missed. Please note that there are some variations from the dates listed on the table in certain circumstances. First, during a leap year, the due date for January and December claims will differ. These are noted on the slide and on the claim due date document. Additionally, if the due date falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or federal holiday, the claim deadline will be on the next business day. Please note that the claim system is shut down every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Claims cannot be started, edited, or submitted during this time. If Monday is a holiday, like this week was, then claims are processed on Wednesday. Before we move on, let's do another poll question. We'd like to know, how do you ensure that claim deadlines are not missed? You can select all or one, whatever tools you use. Do you use calendar reminders? Is there a second staff member that confirms the claim is submitted? Do you have an internal deadline prior to the 60-day deadline? Maybe something else, or maybe you're not sure. Go ahead and answer this poll question for us. I'll give you a few more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so it looks like a lot tend to use calendar reminders. And very close second is both the second staff member confirms it's submitted and also having an internal deadline for the 60-day deadline. Great, thank you. So speaking of missed deadlines, let's talk about these a little bit more. Claims not postmarked and or submitted by the claim deadline shall not be paid with program funds unless ODE determines that an exception should be granted. You may make an exception request for circumstances beyond your control or a one-time exception. Circumstances beyond your control due to fire, flood, or technology failure. At any time, if your claim was late due to circumstances genuinely beyond your control, you may submit the claim with documented written evidence. We analyze the evidence and make our determination if the circumstances warrant payment. If we determine they do not, you may still request a one-time only exception for circumstances within your control. This type of request will need to be forwarded to the USDA. One-time exception for circumstances within your control. A center or sponsor may request a one-time only exception for the submission of a late claim that was within their control. Such an exception will be granted for only one late monthly claim within a 36-month period. Therefore, if you have more than one late claim occurring within a 36-month period, you must select which month will be covered by this provision. Once this exception is granted, no future payment under this provision will be made within the 36-month period. If you choose or are required to do the one-time exception, you must fill out the following corrective action plan or CAP and return to your assigned child nutrition specialist. It will be the person completing the form, the sponsor name, claim month and year being requested, and program. Reason for the claim being late. Actions to be taken to avoid any future late claim submission for the same or other causes. Acknowledging that you are using the one-time exception and it will not be available again for the next 36 months. And finally, it must be signed and dated by the CMP program administrator. This will be your authorized representative. One way to avoid having to use this option is to have a claim backup person to ensure claims are being submitted by the deadline. It is important that your organization identify backup claim staff to ensure that claim deadlines are met regardless of illness or other unexpected absences. Staff turnover and workload are other reasons that claim deadlines may be missed. Having backup staff assigned will help your organization submit claims on time. Remember, CMP Web logins are individual and must not be shared. Be sure that your backup claim staff have the appropriate access to CMP Web. The claim submission procedure template has a location in section C to record the backups for your organization. In addition to having backup staff assigned and trained for claim submission, your claim procedure should include double checks along the way to ensure claim accuracy. It is best practice to have a second person review and confirm the claim prior to submitting the claim for reimbursement. Going back to our claim submission procedure template, you'll see that we have included a double check step in 4A. You will want to have a double checks completed throughout the claim submission process, especially to ensure the claim was entered correctly into CMP Web prior to submission. Additionally, having a process to ensure that the claim deadline is not missed such as calendar reminders, should be part of your claim submission procedure as well, as shown in step 5. To wrap up your written claim submission procedure, you will need to include where completed claim records are kept. You'll want to describe the location of the records and any information that is necessary for someone to know if they're trying to locate these records. Remember, all records must be maintained for 3 years plus the current year. These records must be maintained and made available to ODE CMP upon request. Failure to provide ODE CMP with requested records could result in meals being disallowed and fiscal action taken against your organization. So while this part of the procedure is near the end of the document, it is vital to ensure monthly claims submitted into CMP Web are supported by daily and monthly records. That concludes our presentation today on developing a CACFP claim submission procedure for your organization. The procedure should be a living document, which is continually reviewed and updated to ensure accurate claims are submitted for reimbursement. This might be something that you'll want to take a look at after you have an administrative review and potentially have a finding in this area, or maybe you are offered some technical assistance or something changes within your organization. This procedure is also individual for your organization. While we covered what must be reviewed when compiling a claim, each organization may complete these steps differently. Your procedure may not be the same as another CACFP sponsor. And finally, a tool for training staff. Whether it is a refresher or training for new staff, well-written procedures ensure that everyone understands the steps that must be taken to submit an accurate claim. If you have any questions as you are developing a claim submission procedure, please reach out to your assigned child nutrition specialist. We are here to help. From here, I will hand it over to Shannon, who will close us out with a question and answer session.
Thanks, Kathy. Last but definitely not least is our questions and answers section. When you registered, you had the option to submit questions to be answered during this webinar. Here we'll go over just a few of those scenarios. After we go over our prepared questions, we'll take a look at any questions that have come in through the chat during this webinar. So let's get started. The first question is, when entering my site claim numbers in CMP Web, I get an error that my meal counts exceed the total monthly attendance. I know we didn't serve any meals to students that weren't present. Why am I getting this error? Kathy, could you answer this question for us?
Absolutely. Oh, the horror of errors. Well, there are 3 potential reasons why this error may be happening. The first is that the days of operation may be entered incorrectly. This count must include any and only the days that CACFP meals were served. If non-congregate meals are served for multiple days, count all the days that meals are intended to be consumed, not just the day they were distributed. For example, for Monday and Tuesday were handed out on Monday, your meal count should include Monday and Tuesday. Second, the total monthly attendance may be calculated wrong. The total attendance is founded by adding up the attendance count for all the days of operation. For example, attendance was on the first was 32, and the second was 28, and the third was 35. So the attendance is 95. Even if they were all the same children, they are counted for each day they are there. CMP Web will take this total monthly attendance number and divide it by the number of operating days, which gives you your average daily attendance, or ADA. Lastly, if neither of those was the problem, then the issue may be with the meal count records. Meals in excess of attendance are not reimbursable. If some children didn't sign in or attendance wasn't taken, those meals cannot be claimed. Attendance must always be equal or greater to the meal counts. This is where your double check system comes into play. Ensure that your procedure includes comparing meal counts to attendance records prior to submitting the claim so that only valid meals are claimed for reimbursement.
Great, thanks, Kathy. Here is the next question. While entering meal counts for breakfast, AM snack, and lunch on my site claim, I got an error that AM snack is not approved. We started serving AM snack last month, but I forgot to update the site info sheet. I just revised the site info sheet to add AM snack. Can you please approve it? Caitlin, could you answer this one for us?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Unfortunately, we are not able to backdate the approval of a new meal service. We can approve the AM snack to be claimed starting today, but you will not be able to claim the AM snack served last month. Remember, all new meal services must be approved in CNP Web before the meals are served. Otherwise, they are not reimbursable. It's very important to include updating CNP Web into your written procedure before it's time to submit the claim to avoid having to disallow meals served. As a side note, while it's always best practice to update CNP Web prior to any meal changes, there are some revisions to meal services that we can approve after the fact. If a meal type has already been approved, but a day or month of operation was added to that approved site, that's approvable. For example, if a sponsor's original plan they were approved to serve breakfast on Monday through Thursday, due to scheduling changes, they started serving breakfasts on Fridays as well, but didn't update CNP Web. We can approve the addition of Friday meal service for months already passed, since breakfast was already approved as a meal type at that site. Another example would be a sponsor is approved to serve PM snack and supper during October through May. In June, after serving PM snack and supper, they realized this month was not selected in CNP Web. We can approve the additional month of June, even if meals were served prior to approval, because the sponsor is serving PM snack and supper that were already approved meal types at an approved site.
Thanks, Caitlin. Here we have another question. I am trying to submit my claim, but I'm getting an error that not all site claims are entered. I have entered all my meal counts for the sites that operated this month. How do I fix the error? Eliza, can you answer this one for us?
Of course, thanks, Shannon. All sites listed under the sponsor claim were approved to operate in that month. If a site doesn't operate for any given month, you must go into the site info sheet and uncheck the month of operation in line 46. Otherwise, the site claim will be considered missing and you will not be able to submit your claim. The site info sheet must be revised and put into pending approval status so that your assigned specialist can approve it. Once the site info sheet is approved by your specialist, you must go back and revise the sponsor claim to remove the error and then certify and submit the claim.
Great, thanks, Eliza. Our last slide question is, on line 1 of the site claim, it asks for the free enrollment number. Can you please clarify what that number represents, specifically for an at-risk site? Kathy, could you answer this one for us?
Great question. Lines 1 through 4 on the claim or site claim are asking for the eligibility determination of enrolled participants. The lines that are available to be completed on this screen are determined by the program type of that site. At-risk after-school programs are not required to make eligibility determinations of participants. All meals served to all participants in this program are reimbursed at the free rate. Therefore, the number of free enrollment on the site claim will always be equal to the total enrollment number for the at-risk after-school site. Enrollment numbers at an at-risk after-school site can be based on the total participants enrolled in that site's after-school program.
Thank you, Kathy. It looks like we have one last question that's come in. That question reads, if we delay the start of our program and we don't serve for a month or more, do we enter zeros on the CNP Web site claim for those months? Caitlin, could you answer this one?
Definitely. The answer is no. You will not submit a claim for months that you did not operate. What you will need to do is go into the site information sheet in CNP Web and remove the month of operation for any site that did not operate. That will remove the site from the claim for that month. And if no sites operated during that month, it will remove the entire sponsor claim for that month.
Great, thanks, Caitlin. That was our last question, so this will conclude our question and answer section. If you do have any additional issues or questions that come up with your claims, please reach out to your assigned specialist at any time. Shirley, I'll send it back over to you to wrap up.
Thanks, Shannon. If you have any additional questions that were not addressed today, please reach out to your assigned child nutrition specialist. Sponsors who are looking for additional information can refer to the ODE CNP monthly CACFP newsletter called Knowing and Growing. This newsletter will include all new memos that were released in the past month, in addition to information on available grants, trainings, and important deadlines. This is sent out each month to all the responsible principals listed in your CMP Web sponsor info sheet, and information in this newsletter must be reviewed by the responsible principals. Memo updates and program updates are required information for sponsors to know, while additional grant information and resources are helpful to review. If you are not on the list and you want to receive the newsletter, you can sign up using the link on this slide, and this will be shared in the chat box as well. Before we end our session, here is a short message from the Oregon Department of Education. Oregon supports equity and excellence for every learner and seeks to work with school districts, education service districts, and community partners like you. We believe all children should have access to a high-quality, well-rounded learning experience. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. Thank you all for taking this training.